So I will be telling about our experience of going from what we started with, downloadable casual games on mobile, to free-to-play games on mobile. So G5, since 2009, is in the business of developing and publishing casual and now free-to-play games on smartphones and tablets. And you can find our games in the iTunes App Store, in the Mac App Store, Google Play, Amazon, Nook Store, and we're going to be adding more distribution channels this year already. And we believe in the vision of about 10 billion mobile connected devices by 2020, which is going to be the largest video game platform ever. And we are already making over 90% of our revenue from smartphones and tablets. So we're getting ready for that future. So G5 started working on mobile games back in 2003 when we released our first mobile game. And since then, we worked a few years as a developer for publishers. Then in 2006, we went public in Stockholm. And in 2009, started publishing casual games on iOS, self-publishing, and later publishing games from other developers as well. Started selling casual games on Android channels in 2011, and also launched our first free-to-play games last year. So we've been doubling our revenue pretty much every year for the past 3 years. And we have offices in Stockholm, San Francisco, Moscow, and Kharkiv, and the total staff is over 120 people right now. So as a publisher, we help developers reach the audience of people interested in casual games. We have had over 60 million game downloads, and we have millions of daily active users, over 150 apps in our portfolio. We do a lot of cross-selling to make it easier for players to find similar games to what they like. So if you're publishing your game through us, it's really easy to get your game in front of a lot of people playing similar games. So it really helps developers reach the audience. We have already paid millions of dollars to developers in royalty and revenue share, and we're working with over 60 studios now. We have contractual relationships with over 60 studios. And this list is growing quite fast. And we have a number of games, casual games, that have made over $1 million on smartphones and tablets, and these are some of the examples on this slide. So our revenue is rather global. So we are getting about 33–35% from North America, similar amount from Western Europe, and similar amount again from Asia and rest of the world. And in last year, we started releasing casual games on Android, and released 20 of them, had 20 million downloads, and which is, by the way, a lot more than Big Fish. And so we made some millions of dollars from that. So there is money on Android. I've been telling it before. Do not assume that Android does not make any money. Don't give out Android rights along with iOS rights. So make sure you're placing your Android rights in the right hands. So the topic. We had this casual game called Virtual City, which wasn't a big success on PC. But when we converted it to iOS and released it in September 2010, it actually became top 10 grossing game in 34 countries, and made us over $1 million total in revenue, and there were a lot of downloads. So we liked the results, but at the same time, we noticed the growing popularity of free-to-play games. So we set out to create free-to-play games out of Virtual City, and we called it Virtual City Playground. So this game was free, and you paid only for virtual goods inside the game. And it was released a year later in September, December 2011 across a number of platforms. And it became top 10 grossing games in 100 countries now. And 1 million downloads and $1 million revenue was achieved like within a couple of months only. So what we have noticed is that with the free-to-play version, although the core mechanics of the game and the gameplay was exactly the same, the engagement of players was much higher. Players, they spent more time in the game. They really were playing it more, and monetization was better as well. So, as a result, what you see here is that for the casual game, the revenue fell off to a certain level where it stayed. And it's not zero. It's still selling. It's still selling well for casual games. But with a free-to-play game, the revenue did not really fall off. So we are even able to raise the revenue by introducing updates with new features. So the game doesn't really seem that the game is going over the peak. It's just going up right now, actually. So the takeaway from this is that you can actually take a successful casual game with the addictive mechanics and convert it to a free-to-play game and actually have a hit on mobile platforms. So here, you can compare the number of countries, for example, where the game was ranked top 10 grossing. And for Virtual City Playground, it's 100. For Cityville from Zynga, it's only 82. So we can say that for a relatively unknown IP coming from a casual downloadable game, this is a really great result compared to a very popular IP coming from a platform where it had like crazy tens of millions of installs. So I will try to tell you our process that we have worked along the way for converting your addictive, good casual game, but relatively unknown, to a free-to-play game which can become a hit on the mobile platforms. So these 5 steps were made kind of incremental. So on each step, you actually get a build which you're able to play and look at. So the step 1 is creating a sandbox. Thing is, with the usual casual game format, you have this number of missions, number of levels, and each time a player goes from a mission to mission, their progress is erased. Each new mission is started from scratch, basically. So this is not what you need in a free-to-play game. In the free-to-play game, you have to create a certain real estate, a certain equity into which the user would invest, and then they would return. So you will need one large map. We call it a sandbox. And you want to make sure that only a part of it is available to the player initially, and then you can unlock other parts later. So just make sure that the player is not lost. They start in a small corner. And the idea is that, basically, like I said, that players need something to return to. They don't want their progress erased every time they complete a mission. There will be no missions. So this is the snapshot of the city, the size of the original map that we released. It was 3 by 3 screens, and then in the one of the next updates, we actually enlarged the map even further, and we found out that the bigger the sandbox that you can provide to your players, the better, because it gives them more space to build their city in this case. By the way, you quickly run into, there's a question like, why not make it really big? And the problem is that you quickly run into issues with memory, so you will need to be careful about it. But the larger you can give them the map, I think the better, given that you control how they unlock it. So the step 2 is rather counterintuitive, but still, if you look at casual games, especially ones with construction or resource management, the resource production cycles are really small. They're like seconds or fractions of seconds. Everything is instant. You're building something, it's instant. You're producing a resource, it's also instant. This is not how it works in the real world. It is not really intuitive. So what you want to do is you want to slow down the construction and resource production cycles. Like instead of seconds, make it hours. And you want to raise prices dramatically so that saving for a new building, for example, would take hours to the player, not seconds. And it's actually quite good because people know what to expect. Nobody expects that you can save for a new house in a matter of seconds or that it takes seconds to build a new building. So then also, once you've created that, you have also created the opportunity to monetize the user when they actually want to speed things up. So you can imagine by now you have this build with a one large map, and everything happens really slowly on it. So what we also did, because the game was initially launched with the idea that the existing audience of the casual game would play it. So we made sure to explain the differences that we were introducing to the gameplay. And on this screenshot, it's just interesting to note that the upgrade for Bakery in the casual game was actually $300. And in the free-to-play version, it was $27,000. So that's the kind of gives you an idea of the scale of the changes that we had to make to the game balance. The third step, you want to make it real-time. By that, I mean that the game world should be alive even when the game is minimized, even when the players are not playing it. We want to create a situation where a player would put the device aside and return to the game and actually see some progress in their city, in this case, during the time that they were asleep, for example. So what we did, basically, instead of creating a client-server system or stuff like that, we were just saving a timestamp every time the application was minimized. And then on launch, we were taking that timestamp, taking the difference in time, and recalculating what kind of progress was going on in the city, and then showing the updated city. So yeah, we're creating an incentive on this step. We're creating an incentive for the player to come back on the next day. So they would come into the game, start certain processes, and then return the next day to see the results of the processes. And what we achieve by this is that we stretch this 3-hour casual gameplay into separate half an hour, for example, sessions over the course of the longer period of time. And this actually justifies spending much more money with the game for the players. Because if you're playing a casual game for a few hours, like 3 or 5 hours, and then you're done with it, it's hard to justify spending $20 or $50 on this game. It's unthinkable of. But if you end up with a game that you play for 3 months, like every time you're commuting to work and from work, or maybe even for 1 month, and you're playing it every day, there's a lot of moments for monetization, and it's much easier to justify spending $20 a month on something. So also we made sure to give this information to the players who were, just so that they understand the difference with the original game. So we put this, on the loading screen, we had these hints about the changes in the gameplay process, and all the major changes were put there. Fourth step, the monetization. So now that you have created this real-time city with really long production and development cycles, you want to think, how do you monetize? But you have already created everything you need, because people would want to. Did I mention energy? I'm sorry. All right. So people would want to pay to speed up the progress. For example, build buildings faster. People would want to speed up the resource production, to unlock new content in the game, to unlock new places on the map, to expand their city, and to build exclusive buildings, which we're going to cover in step 5. So on one of these steps, and I think it was in step 3. Yes. You have to make sure you introduce energy. Again, this was our way of doing it. There are other possibilities, but the way we did this is that we have introduced energy to limit session time, which is important, so that the players, to actually split this gameplay experience, as I mentioned. So when you're making this 4th step and you're creating this monetization moments, you have to make sure that people who want to play your game for free can still play it for free. And you can use it, basically you can use those players playing for free in order to create a viral distribution for your game in the future. So make sure people can play it for free, but make sure it's inconvenient enough for them every now and then to feel like spending a few dollars on speeding up a construction process or unlocking something ahead of the usual pace. So for example, with the Virtual City Playground, we had these premium buildings. You can see at the bottom of the screen, you could purchase some landmarks and also energy as well. And this is obviously a standard screen for buying currency. What's interesting here is that we had both the premium currency and also the regular, the in-game currency, which you could actually produce in your city. And if you played the game in the right way, I mean, if you're smart enough to play the game, you will never be in a situation where you will need city credits, the credits that are produced by the game itself, by the city itself, even while you sleep, as advertised. So it's interesting that a lot of players actually do purchase city credits. So it seems like sometimes people don't even feel like really thinking in the game or thinking how to play it. All they want to do is just buy some currency, build some stuff, and why not give them this opportunity? Talking about the level of difficulty in the game. So there needs to be a way for a person who doesn't want to really play the game or think to just buy their way through the game. And turns out a lot of people do. Turns out a lot of people don't want to really figure out peculiarities of game mechanics. Sometimes they just want to see progress. So step 5, again, we had this original game which was still in the App Store, and we didn't plan on taking it down. So we wanted to introduce new content into the free-to-play game to make sure that the existing audience will have something to go for into this new game. And we wanted to make this new content really awesome so that it would look good, but it also had some functionality to it. Because, to make sure that people really want to spend money to buy this new content. So what we did, we created those landmarks, and they also had, they were nice to have in the city, but they also have a functionality because they increased the capacity of your energy bar. So by building those, you actually sort of invested in spending less money later, or investing in playing more, having longer gameplay sessions. And of course, yeah, there's a decorative function to them as well. So when you have a build after step 5 in this particular process, you have a working and playable free-to-play game on your hands, which also has monetization, and people can really enjoy playing it. You will see some revenue coming in, and we released the game at that point. But I can tell you there have been a lot of other things that we had to go through during this year in order to get the game where it is now. And it took us a number of updates to figure these things out, and some of them are quests, the pricing of your in-app purchases and the special deals. Updates, again, it's a big story. The viral distribution, interactions between players, customer acquisition and retaining the users, and cross-platform aspects of deploying the game. So what G5 can do for you if you're set on this journey to create a free-to-play game from your successful casual game is we can share our experience with you in a more detailed way. And we provide great terms and advances for you to actually make this transition. We have a cross-platform technology if you need it. We do cross-platform Q&A, so we can take care of making sure that your game, when it launches on Android, is well tested. You know, there are no issues with it. Same thing with iOS, of course, and Mac. We can make sure you maximize revenue from your game across all platforms, not just one platform. And of course, cross-selling with existing G5 games to reach millions of users that we have. It's interesting that this free-to-play approach can be applied to other genres as well. We were just looking at an example with a city builder, but take hidden object or adventure or a puzzle game. This approach with some changes can still be applied to them as well. Free-to-play is really working for all genre. So if you have a great casual game franchise or a successful casual game and you want to go this direction, please talk to us. Again, this is just the comparison. I cannot stress this enough, that you can take a relatively unknown casual game, which was not really specifically, successful in PC casual portal world. And if you do it right, if the core mechanics are great, and you were just struggling to find your audience, and you do the conversion to free-to-play well, you can successfully compete with, for example, Zynga, in this case, on mobile. So I encourage you to make this step. Please contact our licensing team at this email address. And if you have any questions, yeah, that would be.
Thank you very much, Vlad. We actually do have some time for some questions.
Piotr Gado, Artifex Mundi. You told us that you are a 120 plus company. How many of those works for, I don't know, community management, customer support, technical support, etc.?
You want to include quality assurance, or is just like this marketing support? It's about 25 to 30 people right now. It's the number of people involved in basically publishing all these games and supporting the users.
What about customers?
That's included. We are very efficient at customer support. All our games have like 4.5 to 5 stars.
Any other questions for Vlad? Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, this is the next speaker.